training partners. Here come your training partners. So smart, so strong, so funny. Let's go with your training partners. We're ready.
Team, welcome to Training Partners, where two fitness professionals bring you strong takes held loosely. I'm Weezy Shumaker, and I'm joined as always by Justin McClintock. And it is greater than 60 degrees today here.
I'm very jealous.
I mean
It
it.
is not greater than 60 degrees here.
So supposedly it's gonna stay about this warm for the next couple of days, like fluctuating, like it'll be 45, it'll be 63, like yada yada. But
Right.
then I'm told that 8 days or so from now, we are going to get some more weather. And I'm not thinking about that because if it is significant enough, it will impact our travels. So we are going to assume that we are going to get minimal to no weather and our travels will be just fine.
I think that's perfectly fair. 8 days is far too long to know anything about the weather, realistically.
Yeah.
The math never
It could
works out.
change.
It all changes.
Right.
After about 3 days, everything goes to shit. It just doesn't hold
Yeah.
up.
Right.
I am currently, this will give you a grasp on the state of things in Providence right now. Tomorrow, as of day of recording, tomorrow or maybe the day after, there's scheduled to be like 8 hours of rain that I'm really, really looking forward to, because that would deal with some of this fucking snow and ice that is still around. Just like clear a bunch of it out.
Wash it clean.
I know some of it'll freeze over and stuff like that, but it's there's still like sidewalks that are just like a little, like a boot path wide and all this other nonsense.
Yep. We are getting some rain later this week too. I'm surprised we haven't gotten any yet. But yeah, just like the yuck, like leftover snow.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Like
It's
6
gross.
feet of dirty snow on every
It's
curb.
gross.
Like, come on. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I'm ready to be rid of it.
So we were just talking before we started recording about tomorrow and that I have nothing on my schedule tomorrow. Not a darn appointment. So if you're looking at my calendar, don't book it for tomorrow.
Yes.
Well,
Good
I mean,
luck.
this is 8 weeks
Yeah.
ago. If you were looking at my calendar, the week.
Yeah. Please
Whatever.
email and be angry about why you couldn't get an appointment 6 weeks ago.
And so we were talking about my plans for the day and that I am strongly considering not going to sustain, but also leaving my house so that I can actually be productive, because it can be so easy to be sucked into like either procrastinating or doing laundry, doing dishes, wiping down the counter, like getting things moved in advance of a small home reno project, which is true for us. It would be really easy to stay home and do that. And then at the end of the day, be like, well, I didn't do what I needed to. And I also didn't rest. Why do I feel so bad?
Yeah. Which is like, sometimes it's that productivity trap, right? Which is, well, I didn't get 10 things done on a to-do list that I made up just to feel productive. So now I feel bad about myself, even though that to-do list really didn't need making in the first place. But there's also, I don't want to be rushing through work on Sunday that needs to be ready for Monday morning. I could have done this ahead of time. So always wrestling with that.
Right.
But I very much feel the at-home productivity trap.
Yeah. I imagine that's especially true for you, and that if you're like running into a brick wall with the same thing, you take a reset of moving space.
Very much so. And sometimes it's in the house. Like I record from my office, and this is where I do a bunch of work, but sometimes I do work at the kitchen table, and sometimes I do work on the couch. And sometimes I just walk to one of, 7 available local independent coffee shops and work there for, an hour. I won't camp out in a coffee shop for 5 hours or anything, but I'll, pay for a coffee and a snack and then do an hour of work and suddenly be so productive and just like get flow state, go into do not disturb, crash through half the to-do list and be like, oh, that's all it took. Great.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Great. Yeah. Yeah. I often, like, even if something is slated for happening in a given day, if I'm spending more than 15 minutes or so trying to do or start the same task and, like,
Yeah.
running into resistance, nope, we're going to do this some other time. Like,
Yeah.
clearly, I am not in the headspace to do this right now.
Yep.
And it has to
And it
change.
being okay. Like, and
Yeah.
there's in that, like your, pardon me, ball metaphor. Like, if
Yeah.
this one gets dropped for today, how much does it matter? Oh, it turns out no one gave a damn that I didn't post our Instagram reel yesterday. It's fine.
It's fine.
The tides continued to ebb. The planet
Right.
continued to spin. All is
Right.
well.
Right. All is well. All
Yeah.
is well. So, if you, viewer, listener, etc., are stressed about things on your to-do list that you are running into some resistance getting done, maybe you could just try doing it later, another
Or
time.
change your location.
Yeah, or change your
If that's a
location.
thing you can do. If it's not tied to a location.
Or perhaps, like, particularly talking to coaches here, is this a thing that's actually important, right? Like, especially if we're talking about, like, social posting
Mm,
or, like, something that's on my would like to have to-do list is I'd really prefer if the movement demos that I send to clients are of me.
yep.
Is that important? Like, absolutely not. It's not at all. There are wonderful demos that can be used, and, like, I don't need to stress about that.
I think about that's a whole, we shouldn't fall down a rabbit hole about that. But that is a not argument, discussion I have with coaches all the time.
Yeah.
And the kind of busy work coaching discussion, that might be a whole
Yeah.
episode. That might be worth digging into. Because as someone who has at this point gone through, I don't know, 4 or 5 different like business guru mentorship versions of things, there's
Mhm.
so much stuff that gets presented as useful to do. And a
Right.
lot of it ends up being kind of busy
Busy
work to
work.
feel good about yourself because the thing isn't working, or you
Right.
feel like you're supposed to be busier than you are, or something like that.
Right. Yeah. That's kind of how I feel about, like, a newsletter or my own
Yep.
Substack. Like, yeah, would that be great? Sure, but do I have the
Maybe.
resources? Maybe.
Yeah.
Do I have the resources to do it well? And
Yeah.
is that gonna bring me anything I don't already have?
That's the question. That's always and is it something I'll enjoy? Is it going to be valuable? I had a newsletter for a while,
Yeah.
and then there was like 4 weeks in a row. I was doing it weekly. And
Mhm.
4 weeks in a row, I was writing it at like 4 p.m. on a Sunday to send out Monday morning. And I was only writing it. And this was where like the rubber met the road for me. I was only writing it because I said I would write a newsletter. I didn't feel
Right.
like I had anything to say that I hadn't said in other venues.
Blah.
But I also didn't feel great about just like copy pasting, like transcribing a podcast and
Yeah.
sending it out as a newsletter. I'm aware that's a thing
Right.
you can do. I'm aware that if someone, not everyone hears the podcast, that that could be very valuable for someone. But
Right.
it felt like just kind of like a dumb hack to me and not like I was doing something valuable. So I just
Sure.
stopped. And I'll send one out every once in a while. I have a small email list and I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, here's a thought I was thinking, but I have not
Mhm.
committed to that like regular newsletter thing again currently.
Yeah.
It might come back.
Yeah. It might. It's always like, am I enjoying this? Is it necessary? Does it do anything for me? And if
Yeah.
the answer to all 3 of those is no, then, like, can you stop?
And for both of us, we're in the very valuable and sort of fortunate position of we get to ask, does this feel authentic? And
Yeah.
generally, if the answer isn't hell yeah, then it's a fuck no. Like, I don't want to bother.
Nah.
I'm not
No
interested in
thanks.
spending time on these
Right.
things that don't resonate with me.
Right. Right. I run into that, when people find out that I don't batch content.
Mhm.
I can get some pushback on, like, well, then how do you, like, stay posting or stay relevant? I'm like, totally on vibes. You see
Yeah.
it, I thought of it just then.
Yeah. But you like showing up as you on a
Right.
pretty regular basis.
I
You
do.
kind of contribute to discourse. You tell people about your stuff, that you remind people that you exist.
Right.
Whereas I think a lot, as someone who batches some stuff, but I'll also like happily disappear from the internet for a couple of days sometimes.
Right. Yeah.
So if knowing that things are out there and I don't feel like forced to show up will help.
Sure.
But a lot of times,
Sure.
like, I'm just going to show up and talk to people anyway.
Yeah. Sure.
Mm.
Sure. I respect that.
What are we talking about today? I forgot to look ahead.
We, Justin, today are talking about protein.
Yay! No one's talked about protein in so long. Society, you haven't heard about it. Here it is. Finally, someone's talking about it.
For the first time, you've heard the word protein.
I'm sorry. Though I think fiber is maybe starting to make a push.
Well, maybe we'll do a fiber episode.
Great. We kind of did. Well, maybe not. I don't know. We did a digestion episode. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but we didn't talk about why fiber is relevant or what it is or what it does or the types. Putting this in the Rolodex for later.
Yeah.
So I have a box of protein enriched things that you are going to receive. Not right now. That would be hilarious.
Okay.
If it was like, I've timed it.
If there's a knock on my door, I'm going to lose my mind.
No,
is this why you want to record early? Because the delivery guy's sitting outside tapping his toes?
No. That will be a future segment, and we will be ranking them together.
I've been threatened with this and agreed to it.
You have been, yes, correct. Mm-hmm. So today we're going to be just kind of breaking down what is protein, why does it matter, what does it do, how does it do that, and how do I integrate it into my life in a way where I'm not thinking about protein all the time.
I think this is really good because I was only slightly joking at the beginning, where I do feel like it's gotten an overblown place in the conversation around nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
And for, we've both been doing this for a while. 15 years ago, people really were kind of ignorant about how much protein they could use to kind of, optimize, thrive, perform their best, feel their best, that kind of stuff. I feel like people have been hit over the head with it so much now that there's almost like a protein backlash. And people are like avoiding it just because they're sick of hearing about it. And there really is, like most things, kind of a common sense, useful middle ground, sort of like hydration. Like, no, you don't need to carry a 1.5 gallon water jug with you all the time and empty it 5 times a day.
Sure.
But you do need some more water, and maybe more than you're having, and it'll really help you feel better.
Right. A good example of that is that last Wednesday I had my yearly physical, and I was pretty underhydrated, and I knew that going into it. And when she said, so we're going to do some blood work today, I'm like, oh, fuck. And my creatinine came back like off the charts. And her response was like, are you drinking any water? I was like, on this day, no. But in general, yes.
Usually I'm very hydrated.
Usually extremely hydrated. Yeah. Did not expect blood work today and was running a bunch of errands without regular access to a bathroom and just honestly didn't feel like it.
Yep. And that's what I planned for.
And that's what I planned for. So sorry. I'll do it again. So let's talk first about what is a protein and also define the difference between protein and proteins, because they are used interchangeably, particularly if you go down like a science-y path and are confronted with proteins. It can get really confusing really quickly.
Yeah.
So when we say protein, this refers to the macronutrient that is found in foods and drinks, right? Mm-hmm. Macronutrient being the major building blocks of nutrition, of which we have protein, carb, and fat, right? Today we're talking about protein. Yep. People generally, when they're talking about protein, the macronutrient, will say protein or dietary protein. When they say proteins, unless they are an idiot, they're often discussing the science of how the individual molecules work within the body.
Yes. And yes, exactly. I don't want to confuse things.
Okay, great. So a protein is made up of a compound called amino acids.
Mhm.
Specifically, there are 9 of them. Without like getting way into the weeds on what are they, what do they do, what are they in, yada yada. I want you to think of an amino acid as a singular bead of like a different shape, size, color, arrangement, etc. And the protein itself as a bracelet full of different beads.
Yeah, that's a great way of looking at it.
Right. There are lots of different combinations that we can make, and the combination of the beads determines like what the bracelet looks like, the shape of it, how it might fit, etc. The same is kind of true of amino acids and proteins. The assortment of amino acids is going to determine how the protein functions and what it does in the body. Animal-based proteins are considered complete because they have all 9 amino acids or beads, right? That's not to say that other sources coming from a plant-based source doesn't have protein to it. It does, but it's maybe only going to have like green, blue, and yellow beads versus the whole rainbow plus black and white and a couple other in between.
Yeah, and this is where I especially like fitness bros on the internet don't do a good job explaining what they're talking about, whether or not they're correct. When
Right.
people ask for plant-based protein sources, and especially plant-based protein supplements,
Right.
inevitably some guy is going to show up. Some guy in like a little A shirt with a beard bigger than mine is going to show up, start shouting about incomplete proteins. You're like,
Right.
well, hold on, like it
I get
is
it.
protein. You're right, but it's also protein. Why don't you talk to this person like they're a human being who you're trying to help instead of just a jerk?
Right. Right. I mean, the same rules apply if the truth is usually somewhere in the middle, right?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
usually some amount of it depends.
Yeah.
Right? Like the question that I've been getting more and more from folks as fiber is becoming more of the hot topic.
Mm,
Um can I get enough protein while eating plant-based? And the answer is it depends.
yeah,
It
for sure.
depends. Maybe, right?
How much do you like eating?
So, right, how right. And how willing are you to manage your carbs in other ways?
Yeah, that's a whole. I don't want to like
That's a
derail us,
no,
but yeah.
I don't yeah. Well, maybe we'll do like an episode each on macronutrients. Maybe we
Mm,
won't. Tune in. So, why does it matter? Proteins, the molecules in your body, do much of the work. Think of the proteins as workhorses in your body, and they don't last forever.
yeah.
So, for the work to keep happening, you need to keep eating more, right?
Mhm.
Like, I don't just eat enough protein one day and then I don't have to do it again. That's not how nutrition works.
Wouldn't that be great?
Wouldn't that be great?
One day of
Wouldn't that be
perfect
great?
nutrition, one night of perfect sleep. We're good.
That's it. I'm set.
It's the dream.
So, what do they do? What do the proteins in your body do? We've got a list here. Growth and maintenance, which is essential for repairing damaged cells and building new ones, right? So, not just like regeneration, but also new cell
Yeah.
generation, which is especially important when we talk about muscle repair and growth.
Yep.
Right? Plays a critical role in repairing muscles after exercise and preventing muscle loss with age. They also have some enzyme and hormone production components to them.
Mhm.
Proteins form the enzymes, which are basically like the go now that drive metabolic reactions, and hormones that regulate body functions.
Yeah.
So if you're somebody who gets tired at a certain time of day and then awake at another time of day, that is a response, right? If
Yeah.
you're somebody who menstruates, that is an enzyme and a hormone response.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And
We
this
like
is
that.
one of the reasons when we get asked about hormone stuff, one of the first questions we both start talking about is nutrition, not
Yeah.
because we don't care about your hormones, but because so much of nutrition, reasonably optimized nutrition will be reasonably optimal for your hormone production, maintenance, etc. So if we can just do it by fixing your nutrition a little bit instead
Mhm.
of getting some weirdo on the internet to sell you peptides from a Chinese lab. Doesn't that sound better?
Biohacking. You heard it here. We support it. Biohacking by just eating appropriate nutrition.
Biohacking by eating balanced meals.
Folks' training partner said you can biohack by eating a rich, robust diet, getting adequate sleep, moving your body, and being nice to yourself.
There it is.
That's it.
Hey.
Hey. Proteins, support the immune system. They help produce antibodies that fight infection. So I had a very close friend of mine text me just yesterday, and she is a person who uses ChatGPT, which, no shade, like, she is conscious with it. She's not asking it, like, do I turn right or left at the stoplight? She's intentional, but asked ChatGPT, why do I keep getting sick? And ChatGPT spit back, like, well, you've either been dealing with a mold remediation or on a cut or dealing with some other social stuff that you are dealing with. So your body is stressed the fuck out. And she sent a screenshot of it to me and was like, I feel attacked. Like, ChatGPT is telling me to slow my roll. I'm like, yeah, I think you should slow your roll. I think ChatGPT in this instance is correct.
That sounds generally accurate, and you tell ChatGPT a lot about yourself.
Yeah. So if you're somebody that gets sick a whole lot and has a hard time recovering from being sick, right? Like, when you get sick, you're sick for a month, we might need some more protein.
Yeah, for sure.
It also helps maintain your proper fluid and pH balance in the body, which I want to spend absolutely no time talking about because it is very sciencey, and we just need it to make sure that we have enough water in our body, fluid in our body.
Yeah, like actually retaining the fluid appropriately and hang on to it, using it. Yeah.
And not just peeing it out constantly. Instantly. Satiety and weight management. Protein is highly satiating, which means that it keeps you fuller for longer, which can aid in weight management if that's something that's important to you. And then finally, energy source, because it's not the primary source of fuel that the body likes. That's a carb. But protein can provide energy when necessary. So it does a lot. That's why we need it. Those are when we talk about, like, why is protein such a big deal? Like, why do I need to do it? Do you want to do those things? Right? Like, would you like to not stay sick for a month? Would you like to have the right amount of fluid balance in your body? Would you like to grow and repair muscle? Would you like to have your normal hormonal functions occurring? Great.
Yeah.
Protein.
And I think it's a really important point that it's not just, at least there's a segment of people who I think imagine kind of optimal protein intake equating to building 30-inch biceps.
Sure.
And should you want to build 30-inch biceps, yes, you'll need access to a bunch of protein, but there's a whole lot else that goes into it. But pretty good protein levels are go hand in hand with feeling pretty good day-to-day in life. Just as a person who, like, moves their body with intention, but isn't necessarily concerned about winning in the gym, but wants to be able to do all the things they want to do. Like, remember, your muscles are the thing that move you through the world. You want them to be good enough and strong enough to do all of those things.
Right. Yeah. If you expect to be able to do things, you're going to need some amount of protein. And we'll talk about how much potentially later. So how does it do all of that? And I'm going to go into this very, very, very little because I think we already did a really, really nice episode on digestion.
Yeah.
But when you eat something that contains protein, like beans, salmon, eggs, Greek yogurt, etc., your digestive system takes the protein and breaks it down into its component parts, which are amino acids. right? Your body then uses those amino acids to build proteins that perform all of the crucial jobs I already said.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So, like in the I think of the meme like I give you X, you receive X. I think of input protein, digestive system, and then you get proteins doing the
Yep.
job. Great job. You're doing it.
Breaks it apart, puts it together in other ways that are most useful.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
So, what are some examples? And we're going to try to use like some things that you would commonly access here in the United States. Right. And I am thinking about what is like a palm portion size. I'm holding up my hand so everybody could see my palm.
Yep.
A palm portion is like about 4 to 6 ounces.
Yes.
Bigger people have bigger hands and probably require more food.
Yeah. It's one
Right.
of the nice things about that palm measuring system is
Yeah.
that it scales to the person.
Right. Right. So, in a palm of chicken, tilapia, or turkey, we have about 30 grams of protein. In a palm's worth of steak, we have somewhere between 23 and 35, with a fattier cut of steak having less protein, right? Because if it's the same size, but it's a fattier cut of meat, there can't be as much protein. It's not like hiding.
Right.
That's not how it works.
Sadly,
right?
no.
Sadly, no. And then about 24 grams in salmon or shrimp.
Mhm.
And then when we think about other plant-based things, well, this is not plant-based, but like on the way there, about 6 grams of protein in one egg, about 8 grams in a palm size of edamame,
Mhm.
about 9 grams in hummus, about 10 grams in lentils, and somewhere between 12 and 18 grams in a Greek yogurt or cottage cheese. Again, depending on if it's a fattier thing, it's gonna have less protein. Like that's true across the board, apply to anything, right? A leaner burger is gonna have more protein and less fat than a fattier burger. That's
Yeah.
how it works,
Exactly.
right? So how much do I need?
Oh, this is the question.
This is a question. Okay. The current recommended dietary allowance, or RDA, for protein is defined as the minimum amount required to prevent lean body mass. Right. I'm going to say that again.
Say that again. That wasn't right.
To prevent lean body mass loss. Oh my
There
God.
we
You're
go.
right. I didn't say loss. RDA it stands for recommended dietary allowance, and it is the minimum amount required to prevent lean body mass loss.
Yeah.
Right. So if
Actually,
you're not
actively losing muscle.
right, when we talk about building muscle, that's called hypertrophy, and when we talk about losing muscle, that's atrophy. That is like it is getting smaller or it is getting larger. If we are not eating at the RDA, we are at risk of just baseline getting smaller and losing muscle mass, which is a big problem, as we know, because of things like osteoporosis, osteopenia, sarcopenia. Like muscle mass is the fountain of youth. That's pretty well agreed upon at this point. And so if we're not eating enough to at least sustain the muscle that we have, that's a problem.
Yes.
Right? The RDA is 0.8 grams per kilogram per day.
Yes.
That reflects the minimum amount, again, of dietary protein required to meet your indispensable, like your basement level amino acid requirements. It's also helpful for establishing your nitrogen balance and prevent the muscle mass loss for nearly the entire US adult population. There's like 2.5% for whom this is not the right number. You're probably not in that 2.5%.
Yeah, for sure. And for those of you who are playing by imperial, this isn't going to be exact. but you can take pounds of body weight, just divide it in half, and then you want about 3/4 of that. Now, what I just said, the math is off twice a little bit, but that'll get you in the neighborhood of where we're going.
Right. We're gonna give some numbers as well.
Sweet.
Also, just to compare that, like that's the RDA in the US.
Mm-hmm.
The World Health Organization RDA is 0.83. So very, very, very close. We're not in this instance of being like wildly off the charts, either up or down compared to the rest of the world.
Right. At time of recording.
At time of recording. Right. So for a 175-pound person, which is about 78 kilos if you're using kilos, RDA is 63 grams. So then going back to, okay, great, what is our palm portion sizing? Particularly if you're somebody who is eating plant-based, right? You've got 2 eggs for breakfast, a cup of edamame in your salad at lunch, and a big thing of hummus at dinner time. We probably are not getting enough at that point.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
However, if we look at it as like chicken, tilapia, turkey, if RDA is 63 and I'm getting 2 healthy palms, I'm really, really close to that RDA. Does that mean that's optimal? No.
Yeah,
and
that's minimal.
Minimal, right? So when we talk about how much do I actually need, my baseline to tell people is, hey, we should be having at least 3 meals a day. And at all 3 of those meals, we should have a palm-sized portion of protein. If I'm doing that and it is a leaner protein source, whether it's chicken, tilapia, turkey, red meat, salmon, another fish that is secret and unheard of, 3 palms, we're probably somewhere between 80 and 110, depending on what it is. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Right? We probably don't need to think about it more than that.
Yeah, and that's accurate for the vast majority of people.
Correct. Right? And then the question that I've been getting a lot more, and I wonder if you've been getting more as well, is what do I do if I want to be more plant forward in this environment?
Yeah, 100%. This has been a question for a long time, and it goes up and down.
Yep.
And with like how often I hear about it, but it's always been tough, but it's always been solvable. And sometimes I feel like it gets presented as, well, that's impossible. Well, you just can't do it. Like,
no,
too bad for you.
You totally can. And I follow a number of plant-based creators that have really like ignited my creative spirit in eating more plants. But just like I would tell a meat eater, we want to try to eat as diverse a diet as possible rather than relying on any one vegetable, legume, or supplement.
Yeah, that's a great point. Especially the supplements.
Right, especially the supplements, right? And that goes for meat eaters as well, right? Like you can't have a protein shake 3 or 4 times a day as your protein source and expect that to be utilized optimally. It's not going to work.
Well, it won't be. And is this a useful place to talk about why whole food, like protein from a food, is more useful than protein from a supplement? Or are we going there?
Ooh, I wasn't planning on going there, but we certainly can. I mean,
well, I think maybe a tiny timeout, unless we're going to dive in on supplements, you tell me.
No, we're not going to dive in on supplements. I want to, before I turn it over to you and let you, because I can feel thoughts brewing, call out the beginning part of the digestion episode that we gave, where chewing is such an important part of digestion. And if chewing is not happening, there are other things down the road that are going to be hindered. And so this is certainly not me saying, like, don't ever have a protein shake. This is not what you should be doing. That should not be your sole source of protein, because chewing is very, very important to the process and to the way that your body can utilize things. And you're allowed to have shakes. Both are true.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a big part of it. Like the chewing aspect of it not only has a lot to do with digestion, how you process nutrition, it will affect how full you feel. If you're someone who's dealing with cravings or trying to do something with your weight, body composition, move it up or down, anything like that. inevitably something that is a food, whether it's plant-based, meat-based, whatever, is also bringing along a lot of other nutrients with it that overwhelmingly supplements aren't. That said, if you're using a protein supplement, my overwhelming suggestion is the simplest protein supplement you can get. Like if you're not plant-based, then a whey supplement that is as much just whey protein and kind of nothing else. You're kind of a flavor, cocoa powder, vanilla, whatever you want. That's fine. You do not need a very fancy protein supplement that also has creatine and B6 and this special amino booster nitro. You don't need any of that. Once a day, one serving or whatever you're having to bump your protein up is fine.
Yeah.
There's so much advantage to chewing and swallowing your protein sources that's what you should really pursue.
Yeah. If that's possible for you, right? Maybe you're somebody that has a really, really long commute and you're like, yeah, if you tell me that I have to eat it, it's not going to happen. Fine. Cool. Apply this to your life.
Yeah, exactly. And everything, and that's where individualization comes in, right? Like we've both dealt with people who we've created some more interesting solutions for, but it probably is some stuff you can eat. Is yogurt perfect? No. Is yogurt really easy to eat pretty quickly? Yeah. And it's pretty good. And there's lots of other stuff that comes along with it. So like, I like yogurt. I have yogurt in my fridge right now, but I don't eat 10 yogurts a day.
Yeah. And if we want to talk about like, okay, well, how can I beef this up a little bit? Yogurt, granola, chia seeds, throw whatever fruit you got on top. That's pretty good.
Crushing. I love it.
Crushing it. So that's what I have in protein.
Do you want to address a protein myth? Something that I had a gym member once get very mad at me about this. It is usually tossed around. Usually the number is 20 grams. Sometimes it's up to 30 grams. But the idea that you cannot use more than 30 grams of protein at a time. So having more than that in any one setting is a waste because your body's not going to use it. Have you heard this?
I mean,
this bro science has been around for a while. Yeah.
I have heard it. And, like certainly we don't want to encourage you to eat 100 grams of protein in one sitting as quickly as possible. But like,
sounds painful.
If it would be so painful. Imagine just like having to eat that much like rotisserie chicken at once.
It would be it would be like 2.5 chickens.
Right. We're not advocating for that, but also if we're paying attention to hunger and fullness cues and using satiety, assuming that I have that, like your body doesn't really have the ability to manipulate you.
Yeah. And I think where the myth came from is like bodybuilders. And if the only reason to consume protein is to do immediate muscle repair right after a workout, there's probably a limit. It's not 20 grams, but like, yes, there's probably a limit to how many amino acids are being sent that way within, a 1 hour window or whatever you want to give it. But your body will use all of the protein. It'll use it for other stuff, as we've covered, is also very important. As someone who like routinely has 35 to 50 grams of protein at a sitting, I'm also a bigger guy. Like it all gets used and it's just fine. And especially if your opportunity to, if you only have limited opportunities to eat, and that's where we can get great nutrition in, get it in.
Right. I mean, I just really think that argument falls apart, especially when we're looking at, okay, well then what would kind of be optimal? Like I just repolled what macros I'm going to follow for the next 3 to 4 months. And the protein that I personally, as a 171-pound woman, am going to shoot for is 111 grams of protein. Right? That's a little on the low side, but I prefer a really like a higher fat diet that will allow me to keep my sanity. And so 111 is quite literally the number, right? If I'm eating 3 meals a day and a snack, that means that I'm going to need to have about 30 grams at each sitting. Right? If the limit to what my body can use is 20, the argument falls apart.
Yes.
Like they can't both be true.
Yeah.
And I know that the one is true.
Exactly. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, but it's something I've heard. And it's something I've heard that has prevented people from eating better and adding protein into their diets and doing other things, and or driven them to excess supplementation and having 2 shakes and 3 bars a day because they think they need to spread it out in a way that is honestly no fun and it's not supported.
Right. Yeah. You don't need to do that. And I think it's just worth mentioning that, like, you don't need to major in that.
No.
Like, we would consider that very, very, very much a minor. Like, maybe if you were at the Olympic level and going into a competition, which is very resonant right now, the Olympics are on, you probably need to be really intentional about when your nutrient timing is leading up to event day. That probably is not you listening to this.
No. For most people, nutrient timing is better placed around like bathroom breaks.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. Like people will ask sometimes, like, don't have a ton of fat 30 minutes before you work out, because then you're going to stop halfway through your workout. But that's about the only, like, other than that, I think you're probably good.
Right. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
don't drink a gallon of water before getting on a subway for an hour, because you're going to get uncomfortable. Yeah. Do you have any, like, I don't want to fall down a rabbit hole, but I have 1 or 2 in my back pocket I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
Like kind of quick protein go-tos, or you're like, I don't have time to be perfect. Here's my thing. I'm going to do this and feel pretty good about protein in the moment.
Yeah. I actually, so there are 2 days a week where I have to eat dinner in the car. Like, that's the option. It's either eat in the car or don't eat, and eat at like 9 p.m., which I think probably a lot of people who are both parents and work anywhere will
100%.
relate to. And so I believe that I've done a pretty bang up job at mastering girl dinner. Which, for me, like, my preferences, I really like a charcuterie board, and so I prefer to get it as close to that while being still within my protein standards. And so I'm looking for, like, a palm's worth of either sliced deli meat or like a shredded rotisserie chicken that has cooled off. Please don't be the person, like, eating hot rotisserie chicken with your hands in your car. And then I like to get my fats from olives and, like a spicy salami, like, especially if it's thicker cut,
Tasty.
like, love it. And then we'll typically pair that with, like, whatever fruit and veggie we have that sounds good to me, right? And then maybe for a slower carb, like, I'm adding a rice cake or some crackers or whatever else we happen to have. Maybe it's popcorn, right? Like, trying not to overthink it, but okay, what is actually going to check the box on the macronutrients, especially prioritizing a protein, and what will I actually enjoy eating, right?
Yeah, as well as the logistics of car.
Right. And then when we're at home, we try, especially now, to keep it as simple as possible. And so, like, maybe it's a batch roast that we've done in the Instant Pot that then, like, that can be enough meat for lunch for both of us all week long. Or maybe it's a shredded chicken, maybe it's a carnitas, maybe we roast a bunch of salmon or tilapia. But I know, for us, if things are not easy to make and to think about, it's unlikely to happen. And so, like, yes, are there days and times where we decide, like, ooh, it would be really fun to find this cool, sophisticated recipe and put it together, and it's going to taste so good and we're going to really enjoy it? Like, yeah, great. But we cannot do that all the time because we just flat out wouldn't.
Yeah, it wouldn't happen.
Right.
So,
and then on especially busy weeks, we will utilize, like, a catering order at one of the, like, call it fast casual separated meal item places like Chipotle, or here in Columbus, we've got a really cool place called Brassica that is like Mediterranean style. You can get a tray of rice and steak and chicken and pico, and you can throw those together, and it's going to cost you like somewhere between $100 and $200 for lunch for 2 people for a full week. Like, we utilize that on busy weeks, and I think I've talked about that on the podcast some. That
I like that move.
Like, for us, there's just no excuse not to.
Yeah. I do. The 2 things that sprung to mind for me is pretty much every week now I'm prepping a standalone protein and like a protein forward meal in bulk. So doing usually kind of 3 to 4 pounds of some kind of protein with, you know, a spice and a marinade and some other delicious stuff. And that can be used with other things. That can stand alone, or it can go on salads and sandwiches and buff up, but it's there. And then the standalone is usually a pasta plus or a rice plus, you know, chicken, turkey, something like that, with some pretty good flavors, but several pounds of that are ready to go. And I know pretty much what the macros are. So when my surgeon wife comes home from a day that was way longer than it was supposed to be, and it's 7:40, and she comes through the door, and like I can just see the hangry in her eyes, and we haven't done anything. Like, dinner will be ready in 90 seconds because it's just going in the microwave,
right?
And it's going to be perfect. The other thing that I really like doing is putting protein powder in yogurt in the morning. So like a non-fat plain yogurt, which I know a number of people just went, ew, hold on. Because then you take a scoop, or in my case, often 2 scoops of chocolate protein powder, put that in a bowl, put your serving of plain non-fat protein in the bowl, mix it up, and it's delicious and chocolatey and wonderful. And I just got like 45 to 55 grams of protein and some other good stuff and some, you know, probiotics, et cetera, et cetera. And it was super easy and took, you know, seconds.
I still am going, because I don't like chocolate.
You can, other flavors are available. What do you want?
I don't believe you.
Does it have to be green?
You know what? I'm actually very excited because I have a client who got a bunch of single servings of the like lemonade, like lemon gelato-y clear protein isolate.
I've heard of this, yeah.
And it's come up on my feed a couple of times, probably both because it's protein and because it's yellow. And I've been wanting to try it, but I'm so skeptical of fruity proteins in general. Like, my experience has been so poor in the past. And she said it was so good that she went and she bought bags. And she said, I will bring you one of the singles to try. Yeah. And so I'm very excited to try that.
It would be cool if it's good. I would also, obviously, you know this, double check the ingredient label. Because anytime I have a protein supplement, and I'm like, this is delicious. I'm like, oh, wait, this is a candy bar. Oh, wait. Then, oh, it's got 21 grams of fat in this quote unquote protein bar. Great.
Right. Sure.
Have I ever told you about trying unflavored protein? I went through a phase.
No.
I think I told you about ODing on the name just went out of my head. BCAAs once. No, not BCAAs.
Yes.
What's the stuff that makes you itchy? It just went out of my brain.
No.
Oh, God. It's in all the pre-workouts.
It starts with a B, I think.
Yeah. Beta-alanine.
Beta-alanine.
I OD'd on beta-alanine once upon a time. That story's in the podcast somewhere. But in that kind of era of, I know a lot about nutrition. Why am I giving companies money to flavor things? I'm going to build my own.
Oh my God, you mixed your own.
I bought 5 pounds of unflavored protein that was just pure whey protein isolate and nothing else.
Goop.
And it was like chewing chalk. Like, I actually threw most of the bag out. I was like, I can't hack it. I'm not strong enough. Like, I think the solution is like, I'm going to start just like adding agave or sugar or Hershey syrup or something. And that's not the right move. So this was a failed experiment. Yeah, I do not suggest unflavored protein. You're fine. If you have a protein that you like and it doesn't have lots of other garbage with it, then great. You found the right one. I usually go for the kind of cheapest protein per buck per gram. And that's fine.
I go for the one that I like the most. which
that's
should,
fine.
and I don't care about the price, which should come as no surprise to anyone, especially Ted Shumaker.
Yes. No, that absolutely checks out.
Anything else you think we should say on protein that hasn't already been said 10,000 times on the internet by people shrieking at you?
I don't think so, but I'm interested to see if people have any more questions about this, because it is also, I always, and we cover subjects like this a lot, but things that you and I know really in depth and have talked about for years and years. If there's something we didn't cover or said in a way that you found confusing, let us know, because we'd like to cover it or like to clear it up, and we'll either send you a message or clear it up on the air or both. But all questions are reasonable questions, and this can be confusing. And keep in mind that there's lots of companies committed to making it confusing on purpose, so you give them money.
Right, because if they create a problem for you and sell the solution, they benefit.
Yes. Anyone telling you need this super special constructed protein and everything else is bad is definitely lying to you.
Should we do a segment?
Let's do a segment. We are going to, I don't think you and I have ever discussed this subject, which I mentioned to my wife, and she was shocked because my wife now has a spreadsheet in her phone, or a little list, where she tracks how often I talk about this subject, because she thinks it's way too much and thinks it comes up out of nowhere. Have we ever talked about my affection for James Bond?
No.
I'm a big fan. I wouldn't say I'm like an expert. I don't have an encyclopedic knowledge, but I like it a lot. I like a lot about it. I follow along. I've seen all of the movies, usually a bunch of times. I haven't seen the last one since it was in the theater because I was so sad, but I'll watch it again. It is something I will totally put on like a 70s Bond movie in the background while I work. And that will be like my work along comforting.
This is your Taylor Swift documentary.
Similar. Totally. I will absolutely put on like A Man with a Golden Gun and just work along to it. Cause like I know the rhythms. I don't have to look. I know what's happening. I could paint the picture.
Sure.
I find it very comforting. I was guessing you don't know a ton about James Bond.
The only movie that I've seen is the Die Another Day, like Frozen Halle Berry one. That is the only one I've seen.
In my estimation, probably the worst. I think that may be 25 out of 25.
Great. Well, I've seen that one.
It's an amazing one to start. That one starts with them surfing into North Korea. Awesome. Surfing, like stupid CGI surfing into North Korea. I want to be clear. I'm not here to defend anything, but I'm a giant fan of James Bond. I'm not saying any of the movies are great. Some are better than others, like in relation. I like a lot about The Thing. I've read all of the books. I find there's a lot I like about it.
There are books?
Oh, they were books originally. They started as books.
Oh, no, that's news to me. I did not know that.
Yeah, they started as books in the 50s and 60s by a man named Ian Fleming. He wrote, I want to say it was 9 or 10, and there's some short stories too.
James Bond.
Some of the early movies track pretty close to the books, and as they go along, they get further and further away, sometimes using only a title or a phrase that was mentioned once, and the rest of it had nothing to, like Die Another Day has a bunch of James Bond references in it, but Ian Fleming did not write a book called Die Another Day about an ice palace.
Is that why it's so bad?
I could talk about this for a long time.
I can tell.
And this is not, we haven't even started the segment, but there's a lot going on with Die Another Day that made it bad.
Okay.
So we're going to do basically 2 truths and a lie. 2 things that are true and 1 thing that is some shit I made up about James Bond.
Okay.
I've got like 10 or 11 questions kind of about things that are, Bondy, and you're going to tell me which one is not accurate, which one is the thing I made up, which is not true.
Okay. Got it.
A lot of women die in terrible ways in James Bond. Does a villain kills a woman by painting her gold? A villain kills a woman by covering her in oil? A villain kills a woman by drowning her in champagne?
I think
2 of these are true.
I think oil is false.
Incorrect. Incorrect. She gets covered in oil. The gold one is sort of a famous scene from Goldfinger where a woman gets painted all in gold paint. And the explanation is that because all of her pores were covered with paint, that it somehow suffocated her and that will kill people. That's actually not true.
Sure. That's not true. You can actually breathe through your nose.
In a later movie, a woman gets killed in the same style and covered in oil, and it's left in the same pose. So it like looks exactly this, but she's jet black as opposed to gold. I made up the champagne thing. Bond's cars can inevitably do some cool stuff.
Mm-hmm.
My 3 statements are: James Bond's car can turn into a submarine. James Bond's car has an ejector seat. James Bond's car can be fueled by trash.
I don't think it can be fueled by trash.
That's correct. That is the DeLorean in Back to the Future 2.
I also have not seen that.
A bunch of famous actors have played Bond villains.
Mm-hmm.
Christopher Lee played a Bond villain. Christopher Walken played a Bond villain. Jack Nicholson played a Bond villain.
I don't think it'd be Christopher Walken.
Incorrect. Christopher Walken is a cuckoo pants Bond villain in a film called A View to a Kill, where amongst other things, he has a blimp that he rides around in. And he's blonde, and he like has a German scientist who's trying to create horse people, kind of. Yeah. Inevitably, the bad guy's plans are kind of goofy. Villain plans. A villain tries to trigger an earthquake in San Francisco. A villain tries to start World War III using a stealth ship. A villain tries to steal the Declaration of Independence.
I don't think the Declaration of Independence is real. That's Nicolas Cage.
Correct. That is National Treasure.
Yes.
Bond has been played by a number of different actors. Bond has been played by an Australian. Bond has been played by an Irishman. Bond has been played by an American.
I don't think it's been played by an American.
He is not. You're correct. It was offered to Burt Reynolds. Just straight offered. Would you like to be the next James Bond? And he turned it down.
I like that.
I can't imagine what would have happened.
Right.
I don't think it would have been good. Bond has killed people in some really weird ways. Bond killed a man using an electric joy buzzer. Bond killed a man by dropping him into a chimney. Bond killed a man by shooting him with a harpoon gun.
I don't think the chimney is real.
It is real.
Is it the harpoon gun?
No, the harpoon gun is also real. The electric joy buzzer is Jack Nicholson's Joker from the 1989 Batman.
Right. Sure.
There's some weird stuff that doesn't seem to like it needs to be in the movie that's in a lot of the movies. We have the movie Moonraker ends with a laser battle in space. The movie Octopussy features a super smart octopus who helps commit crimes. The movie A View to a Kill features parachuting off the Eiffel Tower.
I can't imagine the octopus is real.
That's correct. I just thought that was fun to say. The movie is called Octopussy. There's an octopus cult, but there's not a lot of octopus in it.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have one up on this. I think you have an insight on this next one, but I'm not changing the question anyway.
Okay.
Lots of very talented people have sang kind of the main Bond theme song throughout the years.
Mm-hmm.
Madonna sang a Bond theme song.
Mm-hmm.
Amy Winehouse sang a Bond theme song. Tina Turner sang a Bond theme song.
I don't think it's Tina Turner.
Incorrect.
It's Amy Winehouse then.
GoldenEye, which was the first Pierce Brosnan. You saw the last Pierce Brosnan.
Sure.
Weirdly, Tina Turner's theme song written by Bono and The Edge. They wrote it, but Tina Turner sang it. Yeah. Amy Winehouse was booked to sing a Bond theme song and then passed away before she could do it. Last two. We have villains and quote unquote Bond girls. Or henchmen. So Bond henchmen inevitably have funny names.
Right.
We have Knick Knack, Short Round, or Odd Job.
Short Round is fake.
Correct. Short Round is Indiana Jones' sidekick, who recently won an Oscar for his performance in Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Wow.
I know. All right, last thing. Bond girls, the quote-unquote main Bond girl, have had some goofy names throughout the years.
Mm-hmm.
We have Holly Goodhead, Randy Hot. I was worried. This is why I put it last. I was worried we weren't going to get through
it. Okay.
Holly Goodhead, Randy Hotpiece, or Pussy Galore.
There's no way that Pussy Galore's real.
Pussy Galore is absolutely real. Pussy Galore is an amazing female pilot in the film Goldfinger.
No.
She just introduces herself as Pussy Galore.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
She's also a lesbian. And in the movie, Bond converts her.
Sure.
She just falls for Sean Connery. And they literally go for a roll in the hay. It is absolutely fucking preposterous. Yeah.
So, okay, then you made up Randy Goodhead.
Holly Goodhead is also a real Bond girl.
No!
Holly Goodhead is a literal astronaut in the film Moonraker.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
There's a moment where Roger Moore as Bond is going through and looking for a scientist, and it's Dr. H. Goodhead, and he knocks on the door and they open. Hello, I'm looking for Dr. Goodhead. Well, you found her. Huh, a woman. Yep. So we're dragging you into the 20th century. Huh, a woman. Now he's wearing an amazing jacket when he says it, so it works a little bit better, but it's not great.
It's not great.
Yeah. I want to be clear. I'm not claiming anything about James Bond as defensible. I like it as like an artistic cultural thing.
Sure. Yeah. No, you don't like it as a commentary on like what male-female dynamics should be.
No, not at all. And it's also not like sometimes I don't think James Bond is someone anyone should want to be like for the most part. Like there's certain aspects of like style and suaveness and things like that, which, okay, maybe, but he's essentially a dull, broken instrument of a semi-totalitarian government who's mostly been created to kill people. That's kind of his function.
That's kind of a problem, right?
It is a problem.
It is a problem. If you find yourself aspiring to be like James Bond, might we encourage therapy?
Yes, you need to kind of look at it again. You maybe have taken the wrong message. It's like the guys who came out of Fight Club and like didn't understand what was. Yeah. This whole thing's a satire, and not that James Bond is a satire. They're two different things, but like what one could take from it, I think.
Right. Wow. That was really something. Thank you, Justin.
You got 5 out of 5, friend. It's not bad.
Wow. Look at me. Good at guessing.
Yeah.
Team, this has been Training Partners. I'm Weezy Shumaker. That's Justin McClintock. See you next time.
Later, gang.
Here come your training partners so smart.